Welcome everyone to the Planning Advisory Committee public meeting of Wednesday, July 23rd. The time is 5:30 and we will call the meeting to order. The second item on the agenda, we will now proceed with the approval of the agenda. The motion reads that the agenda for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of July 23rd, 2025 be approved as presented. May I have the mover? Seconder. All in favor? Motion carried. Are there any declarations of interest tonight? No, seeing none, we'll move along to item number 4. Item 4 is a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. I have a recommendation that reads that the Planning Advisory Committee minutes dated June the 3rd, 2025 be accepted as amended. Do I have a mover? And a seconder, Jane. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
Through you, Madam Chair, just to note that the amendment is the omission of CBO Merriman's name in the attendees. So that is the amendment for the motion as amended.
Thank you. All in favor? Motion carried. Item number 5. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, okay. Is a PAC report that's 09-2025 regarding a zoning bylaw amendment of Churchill Road East. We have a potential recommendation that reads that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends to Council that the application for a zoning bylaw amendment, file number ZBA-2025-003, submitted by Fulton Consultants Inc., on behalf of the owner 2841483 Ontario Inc. for the undeveloped property on Churchill Road East and being the severed parcel of consent application SEV 2025-002 be approved as amended, and that bylaw number 09/2009 as amended be further amended as per Exhibit A, draft bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 09-2009 to supplementary report 009-2025, and that Council determines that in accordance with section 34, bracket 17 of the Planning Act, no further notice is required prior to the passage of the bylaw, and that the amending bylaw be presented to Council for approval. Can I have a mover? And a second with Councillor Burton. I will now let our municipal planner, Tim Fisher, speak to the portion to this portion of the meeting.
Thank you. This is zoning bylaw amendment application 2025-003 for a piece of property which has frontage onto Claxton Terrace, which has access onto Churchill Road. The application is to rezone the subject parcel to a site-specific R3 zone. The amendment will recognize a proposed residential development on a severed parcel of land, which went through a consent application, severance 2025-002. The proposal is consisting of 2 3-story apartment buildings, each containing roughly 18 units, approximately 48 parking spaces, outdoor amenity space, and road access onto Claxton Terrace. Public notice was mailed to all property owners within a 120-meter radius of the subject site. The pink area that you see is the 120-meter radius and all the properties that were notified. Oh, click on that. All right. Posted or signage was posted on the subject property at all road frontages. That would include Claxon Terrace, Church, and along Churchill Road, and also on Boundary Road. So, future notice, if this committee recommends approval to council, its recommendation will be placed on a future council agenda for council's decision. A notice of passing will be circulated to the applicant and agent, and anyone who is requested to be notified of any decision in writing, or has signed the sign-in sheets during this meeting or during the council meeting. So public comments. So to date, we've received 2 letters from the abutting landowner at 800 Claxon Terrace. And we also received a petition signed by approximately 66 tenants and owners from the neighborhood. So some of the concerns that have been raised to date, we have the loss of access to the parking at the rear of 800 Claxton, the loss of use of parking spaces on the west side of the building on 800 Claxton Terrace, the relocation of the sheds and other structures, and they've requested compensation for the removal of these, increased traffic and disruptions to the existing tenants and landowners, safety concerns for children, seniors, and people with disability, and one of the questions was, why not use Boundary Road or alternative access, and why use Claxon Terrace as the access here? So first, under policy review, oh, sorry, I'll get back to it. So we'll address all those concerns within the presentation here. So first of all, when we look at the policy review, we first have to look at the provincial planning statement, which provides a guideline of how a municipality is to create and create their official plans and kind of give an overall view of how development should happen in Ontario as a whole. As you know, provincial planning statement, you may have seen a lot of changes that Doug Ford has made about putting or making houses faster and making affordable homes more available. So this project, which will create 36 units, will satisfy those policies that have been put in place. So under the official plan, the subject property is designated as residential. And in the residential designation, there's a mixture of different density types. The proposal that we are looking at is considered a high density residential use, which is consistent with the existing built neighborhood and the adjacent land uses that are there. The zoning bylaw 09/2009, the subject property has 2 different zones on it. Right now, there's an R2-H1 and an R3 zone. The R3 zone is a high density zone and the R2 is a medium density. The H1 is a holding symbol, and that's put in place here in regards to meeting certain requirements for servicing, and once they meet these certain requirements, that holding symbol can then be removed, and they can then go ahead in obtaining building permits and such, and go through other application process. So the intent here is to rezone the subject portion, which is only the severed parcel. This drawing shows the entire property as a subject site. We're only showing that because the severed lot hasn't officially been created yet. So technically it's still all one lot. The proposal that we're dealing with through this application is strictly only for the severed portion. Nothing is changing for zoning wise on the retained lands whatsoever. So, to deal with some comments that came up during the technical commenting process, we asked them to verify the turning radius for fire and safety vehicles. So the plan was amended to show how emergency vehicles can enter the site. This plan also addresses a potential easement that can be placed on the property to address the adjacent landowners' concerns at 800 Claxon. That easement will address access onto the property for the existing parking, or recognize the existing parking that's there and allow them to continue those 7 parking spaces. And also to legalize the road access from Claxon to their rear yard parking. Currently, there is nothing on title that that legally allows them to have that driveway there. So that was put in place probably back in the early 80s type of thing. So we're rectifying that situation, and we're actually cleaning up that situation for him and legalizing the parking and access. In order to do this, we did ask the individual if he could add approximately 1 meter of asphalt on the west side, just to widen the access. And that will push the vehicles coming and going away from the existing parking spaces that are there right now. In regards to the structures that were placed on the subject property. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So you click it down. There we go. So through this process, our initial review of the proposed bylaw amendment, initially they asked for a minimum driveway width to be reduced from 6.5 meters to 6 meters. Initially, we were recommending a denial of that proposal because of the comments for emergency services, that sort of thing. Since then, we've spoken to their agent, and they informed us that the intent was to really reduce the parking aisleway in order to keep the proposed parking away from the residential buildings there. So the current bylaw defines the minimum driveway width as it would include an aisleway, a driveway, or an access. So it kind of lumps everything all in. So in this case, what we are doing or recommending through the bylaw is creating 2 new definitions that are specific to this development under the site-specific zone. The first definition would be parking, or the aisleway for the parking lot. Define that so that that area within the parking lot can be reduced down to 6 meters. And define the driveway with access, and the driveway with access would be maintained at 6.5. So other requirements that they asked for amendments to the R3 zone is the lot frontage. The lot frontage is technical in matter, only because it's an existing situation. We're bringing it, we're recognizing and bringing it to compliance here. So that they're proposing 18.2 meters, and again, this is an existing situation. The rear yard setback right now is required to be 9 meters. They're requesting 6 meters. The minimum driveway width we've already talked about. The parking areas for more than 4 vehicles requires a 3-meter strip of landscape open space. They requested a 1.2 meter landscape open space, which is consistent with some commercial developments and stuff that are going around. We find that reduction would not have a negative impact onto the neighboring property to the north, because they have green space there as well too. So the buffer between the parking area and the existing building would be actually greater. There is, I think it's not located there. Oh, it is there. It's not highlighted in blue, but location of parking spaces. The bylaw currently does not permit parking within a front yard of an apartment. This is an interesting situation because the buildings have to be pushed to the rear of the lot, and because of the way the unique shape of the lot, it technically isn't within the front yard. You look at it, but it's defined front yard because the defined front yard is from the road to the front of the building. So you can't have parking anywhere from the road to the front of any portion of the dwelling itself. So here they requested that parking be located within the front yard area, which makes sense as it is under the hydro line that's there. So it makes use of the existing space that's there, that where the buildings can be located. And finally, the H symbol removal. Again, the H1 symbol required them to provide a servicing plan showing how servicing would happen to this development. That has been provided and reviewed, and we're satisfied with the information they provided to date. We'll be looking at that in more details in site plan control. Next. What do we have here? Oh, yes. So, in regards to some of the concerns with safety and traffic, we have looked, the township has looked at Claxton Terrace, and we're taking the initiative to possibly redesign Claxton Terrace to be a one-way in and a one-way out. This should alleviate some of the traffic concerns that are there, and also control some of the traffic movement along that street. So before I go into the recommendation, we did provide a supplementary report which goes through all the public comments and some of the changes that have been made since the initial report through or was created. So in regards to the supplementary report, we have updated the proposed or bylaw, or the draft bylaw that will be moving forward. And I'll go through quickly what some of the concerns were and how they were addressed. So again, the compensation, the town or the developer will not be compensating for an adjacent landowner if they built structures on another piece of property. Uh, the structures that currently encroach are required to be removed in order for the development to happen. Before this meeting, I was informed that there is another building that is slightly encroaching onto the property, which may be addressed through easement process as well too. So we'll take a closer look at that in regards to easements. See here, continued access and access to the parking and use of the parking. I think that's been alleviated here in regards to providing easements, and we have an avenue in creating the easement through the existing severance application process. So that again will create a legal easement over the property, which will benefit 800 Claxon and any future sale of that property will have legal access on the Claxon. So in regards to the petition, we understand that the proposal increases the amount of parking and traffic, that sort of thing. However, the applicant did provide a traffic impact assessment, and that was prepared by CGH Transportation and dated October 2024. It looked at the entire property, so the severed and retained, and what was being proposed at that time. So going through the report and taking what was provided in regards to Claxon Terrace and Churchill Road East along the route, it was noted that phase 1 of the proposed development is located obviously on the subject property. The subject property has the road frontage on Claxon Terrace. Claxon Terrace is their only road frontage for this specific lot. They don't have frontage on any other road, so we cannot ask them to provide alternate access onto, let's say, Boundary Road, because there's no development or anything at that time. So we're looking at the proposal at hand using the existing road frontage on Claxon. When they did a deep dive within the past 4 years, they determined that there were no property damage or personal injury reports at the intersection of Claxon and Churchill Road. And in their assessment, they found that a left-hand turning lane or a signal intersection is not required based on the existing conditions that are there. And again, with the town looking at creating a one-way in, one-way out would further alleviate any possible traffic concerns within that area. And in looking at the phase 1 development, it's only projected to generate approximately 23 a.m. and 27 p.m. peak hour two-way vehicle trips, which is anticipated to have no negative impacts on the existing traffic on Claxon Terrace. The safety and sidewalks concerns, sidewalks are not provided along Claxon, and the town does not require the applicant to provide sidewalks. Staff will review if the installation of sidewalks are warranted when the road is to be upgraded or redesigned in the future. Safety concerns were raised by residents regarding the development and the interior function as well. Staff will be working with the developer to try to alleviate some of these concerns through the site plan application process. There is no mechanism under the zoning bylaw in order to have them comply with providing connecting sidewalks to adjacent properties or speed bumps, that sort of thing, but we are going to try to work with the developer to come up with something that everyone will be happy with. Noise, there was concern in regards to noise there and the increased traffic. The applicant did prepare an environmental noise control study prepared by Patterson Group. It was noted here that the existing and increased noise from cars through this development will have no, is anticipated really to have no negative impact on the existing surrounding developments. The sound and noise generated by this would not have, are well within the parameters or road noise levels within the residential area. There are other notations within the study in regards to noise, and that is because of the location of the CN rail line. That will be addressed through the site plan control application process, and the requirement would look at materials, specific materials and such that the building would have to comply with in order to cut down sound when people are inside. And that could be done by certain cladding materials, certain insulation, and also providing AC units, that sort of thing, for especially units that back onto the CN rail line. The driveway width and aisleway, I've already explained that. We've looked at that. We've come up with a compromise in regards to creating definitions. And again, we are going to permit or recommend a reduction in aisleway, the interior parking aisleway from 6.5 to 6. So staff are satisfied that the revised proposal and the zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the policies of the provincial planning statement and the direction of the government of Ontario to build more houses. The proposal does comply with the policies of the town's official plan and is in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw and the existing development in the area. Staff is also satisfied that the public concerns that have been addressed and that the design and functionality of the revised site plan can be addressed, and other particulars in regards to the site function can be addressed through the site plan control. So we are recommending to Planning Advisory Committee that they approve the requested zoning bylaw amendment as per the amended Exhibit A, as per the supplementary report. I will leave it in the hands of the agent's planner to further go into detail in regards to the development.
Thank you, Tim. Is the applicant or the agent present, and would you like to speak?
Thank you, and through the chair, I hope everyone can hear me. My apologies that my back is to you. My name is Holly Newitt, and I'm a registered professional planner with Photon Planning and Design. I'm here this evening to provide a little more detail on the application for the zoning bylaw amendment, and hopefully not re-say anything that Mr. Fisher has already said. And I'm joined this evening with my colleague, Jacob Bolduc. As noted, the property is part of a larger land holding, which is located north of the CN rail line, south of Churchill Road, and to the east of Edward Street and the west of Boundary Street. The area is predominantly residential, though there is a mix of community facilities and commercial uses along Edward Street.
The property was previously subject to an application for consent to sever, which was conditionally approved by the Committee of Adjustment on May the 29th, 2025. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is a condition of that conditional approval in order to appropriately zone the subject property, which is shown as severed lands on this slide. The subject property in this application, being only the severed lands, has a total area of approximately 7,000 square meters, with approximately 18 meters of frontage on Claxton Terrace. The property is currently undeveloped, though it does contain an existing driveway providing access to 800 Claxton Terrace, which abuts the site to the northeast. Next. As noted by Mr. Fisher, the property is designated residential in the Town of Prescott official plan. Policies guiding the residential designation encourage residential intensification and compatible ground-oriented built forms to be concentrated in the downtown core as well as along the CN rail line. The property is currently split zoned, with the portion to the west being designated high-density residential, or R3, and the portion to the east being zoned medium-density residential, or R2, with the holding relating to servicing and staging. Both zones permit a mix of residential built forms, obviously at the prescribed densities noted in the titles. And the holding symbol seeks to prevent premature development and ensure the development can be sustained by existing or planned municipal infrastructure. The proposed development will introduce 2 low-rise apartment buildings. Both buildings are proposed to be 3 stories in height, with 18 dwelling units each, resulting in a total of 36 total units on the site. A total of 48 vehicular parking spaces are proposed, accessed from the existing driveway on the property. And a surplus of outdoor amenity area is proposed both in the rear yard and in the east, just behind the existing 800 Claxton Terrace development. Next slide, please. I won't go into too much detail. I believe Mr. Fisher covered the zoning table quite well, but here you see our requested amendments for lot frontage being the existing frontage on Claxton Terrace, as well as the proposed reduction to the rear yard, both of which are a result of the existing kind of irregular and quite narrow lot fabric. On this slide, the proposed zoning is continued, showing a slight reduction to the parking strip abutting a lot line, or sorry, the planting strip, my apologies, to buffer parking area from an abutting lot line. The requested parking in the front yard, which is technicality through the definition of what is a front yard on this site, is quite an odd shape, as well as a reduction to the minimum aisle width, which is to be further defined through this amendment, but is currently defined in the zoning bylaw as being the traveled way which motor vehicles enter and depart parking spaces. So not the driveway itself, but the aisle that you take to get to your parking. Next slide, please. Here we have shown the requested amendments within the context of the concept plan, highlighted in blue. So you can see the 4 amendments highlighted here. The design of the proposed development was informed by a suite of technical supporting studies, including a servicing design and stormwater management brief to speak to the serviceability of the development, a traffic impact study, which reviewed the traffic implications of the increased traffic on both the roadway and at intersections nearby, as well as a noise control study, which reviewed the potential noise impacts from the development on existing residential uses, as well as impacts on the proposed development from the adjacent railway. In summary, the proposed development will result in 36 residential dwelling units in a compatible ground-oriented built form in an area that is intended for residential infill within the town, increasing housing options for residents and future residents of Prescott. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is a condition of the conditionally approved consent for severance previously approved by the Committee of Adjustment. The proposed development has been designed based on recommendations of technical supporting studies, is consistent with the provincial planning statement, conforms with the town of Prescott official plan, and complies with the intentions of the town of Prescott zoning bylaw. It is therefore our professional planning opinion that the proposed represents good land use planning. I'm now happy to take any questions from members of committee or the public.
Hey, Madam Chair, I guess, thanks for coming, everyone. Has the, maybe this is probably too preliminary, but has there been any additional talk about fire hydrants added to the closer or to the building itself?
Through the chair, there is currently one fire hydrant that will need to be potentially relocated as a result of the development. There is one currently on the property adjacent to the existing driveway. We will be working with the engineering department at the town to determine where that is best located, but the area is well serviced with fire hydrants.
Okay, thank you. Next question, the proposed 218 unit buildings, have they been announced yet how many percentage will be 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, 3-bedroom?
Through the chair, that has not been determined. We do not have floor plans yet, but they will be available through the site plan application process.
Okay. That being said, how can we determine how many exact parking spots we're going to require for? Because from what I understand, you require additional parking if it is going to be a 2 or 3-bedroom, and also accessibility units. So the size of the units, if they're going to be accessible, that'll take up 2 parking spots in itself. So I'm just, with space being a limited thing, how would we be able to confirm 100% that it's going to be 48 parking spots for this building when in fact it could be 50 or 55?
So through the chair, the parking provision in the town of Prescott zoning bylaw is for 1.25 spaces per dwelling unit. So it is not based on the size, but rather they are an apartment unit, so 1.25, of which 15% is visitor parking. So to be compliant with the zoning bylaw, we would need 40 parking spaces on site. We are currently showing a slight surplus at 48, and that will allow for us to increase the width of some of them, depending on the number of accessible spaces needed to access accessible units. So the minimum number per the zoning bylaw is 40. We are proposing a couple extra at this stage. I think, you always need an extra 1 or 2. But it also gives us a little bit of flexibility at the site plan control stage to account for accessible parking spaces that are a little bit wider than your standard.
Thank you. And then going back to the sound, will the developer be working? I'm assuming they're going to be working with the town, whether it might be triple pane windows or extra things to eliminate the sound because of I can't see it being road noise, but I can definitely see the bigger noise coming from the train itself for the customer experience, or sort of the tenant experience living in those units.
Absolutely. Through the chair, our noise study does speak to recommendations for materiality, as Mr. Fisher mentioned, higher grade cladding on the outside, more denser, higher quality windows, AC units, things like that. So we will be developing to the recommendations of the noise study.
Thank you. Will there be any balconies proposed on this building?
Through the chair, we are hoping to include balconies. Whether those will be available for the units to the rear of the building, we'll have to double check with our noise consultant. The goal is always to provide that additional amenity space, but I'm not sure myself if they can be provided on the rear because of the noise.
Do we have an image? Where the parcel, because I haven't seen one yet, where the proposed development is in relation to exactly the whole parcel of land? No, the whole parcel. Sorry, I know we're not dealing with that. Where I'm going with this is the future development of additional buildings on this by this developer. and then possible other road accesses, is there any chance that if there's another development to the east of this property, will there be even more road congestion? There we go. Will there be even more road congestion going through to the west if he should develop in the future?
Through the chair, there's no intention to develop to the east at this time. Those lands
It's right to the east there.
are still owned by the town. I can let Mr. Fisher speak to this if he likes, but there is currently no intention to develop the lands to the east at this time.
Just for traffic, just in case there wasn't gonna be accessible more through Bamber, would there be even more?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, we can't assume what potentially can and cannot go on the retained portion.
Right.
We're just dealing with the development as proposed on its subject lot. Right now, they're showing no connection whatsoever. They're showing amenity space. If they're in the future, if there is going to be some sort of connectivity there, then again, there's going to be a process and additional studies, that sort of thing that they're going to have to look at. But that's not what's being proposed.
Thank you.
Okay, so the committee will now open the public portion of the meeting. This is the portion of the meeting which allows the public to provide comments or concerns regarding the proposal. The public will not have the opportunity to provide comments once the public portion of the meeting is closed. Residents will have no more than 5 minutes to provide their comments or concerns, and if you're getting close to the 5-minute mark, we will provide a warning. If there is a collective or group providing comments, we ask that a representative speak on behalf of all of the residents. Comments shall be limited to new information only. If a resident provided similar comments, you may still state that you agree or support their comments, and then provide any additional information. Please direct all your comments through the chair. Your comments will be addressed once the public portion is closed. So we won't be answering the questions as you pose them. We'll wait until it's closed and then have the staff address the questions at that point. And we'd like to thank all of you for your participation tonight. Your feedback is important. So I have a list. Has everybody signed in? The first speaker, Gordon Brooks.
Yeah, so I live on 837 Clarkson Terrace. Obviously, my main concern is the traffic and all that stuff, but obviously kind of alleviated that. So I'm just gonna jump to the H1 designate because I feel we have better spots in town that we can place this. I know there is not a lot of land, but there is free land available. So that's one comment. One comment for the parking spaces, they're directly behind the apartment buildings that are there now. Everybody that parks in them spaces, their lights are going directly into all the windows. So go ahead, it's on the bottom floor, good luck. And as far as rail noise, that's also in here. Yeah, so there's supposed to be a study done, obviously we're doing it through the rail line, both for noise and vibrations. I was just wondering how that was going, if it was done. The parking spaces, so getting into that, the aisleway that I've seen on the forum, so they reduced it down to 6 meters, which is next to nothing. I know it's only half a meter, but a fire truck is, 10 feet wide. 6 meters is 12, so you got 2 feet to pull hose off the side. That's not a lot of room. The turnaround, I believe, the full lane is over 9 meters, so I think they did a turnaround at the end. I do believe, and when I see that turnaround would be approximately, they have circle in the photo. It would be approximately around 18 meters in total, which is the length of a fire truck. So you're not going to turn around in there, is it? So the accessibility, turning around is not good. Yeah, and then just the overall. So I thought we were going to reduce it or make it wider to 6.5 meters for the laneway and reduce the land size more. But from the way I look at it, the parking spaces right now, you pull into 48, you're facing the building, you're like 2 meters from the building. That's pretty close, if you ask me, if you're to live there. And same as the other way. To reduce that number to the property line, if the guy puts up a fence along the back of the property line, you back a truck in, you get back into the fence. That's pretty much all I got as far as that goes.
Thank you, Gordon. Judy?
My name is Judy Lingard, and I'm an tenant at 800 Buxton for almost 17 years. I've talked to fellow tenants about their concerns going in between 800 and 25 Claxton Terrace. I started a petition because I had blocking this road from going down and I received 65 signatures in total. The majority of the concerns are centered around extra congestion and safety issues that are hit for tenants. It presents from the tenants. Some tenants are elderly with mobility issues, some are handicapped in wheelchairs. Small children playing outside will not have to be extra careful with these access. Small children playing outside will now have to be extra careful. There's more traffic in the area. Tenants are concerned about the noise levels increasing, which we spoke about. Some tenants are not happy using the green space, where we sit together at picnic tables and chat. The tenants have stated if there is another alternative route where the road can go again, it would be much better for the residential area. They were wondering if Cow Terrace or Elm Road could be one of those possibilities. That's all I have right now. Thank you for listening to my fellow neighbors and myself.
Thank you, Judy. And Daria?
So I'll go over So, an email to Tim Fisher, so thanks, Tim, he's already addressed a couple of concerns that I did have. So the first one was, for the new proposed road, requesting an easement, because tenants have been using that parking lot for years. Technically, need access to it, so Tim's already addressed that, he said that's gonna happen. So that's good. The next concern that I had was the rental office. It encroaches about 6 inches onto the developer's property. So I'm hoping for another easement or variance that can be documented. So you want to tear down the rental office. So that's another concern that I have. The current parking lot. So at the side of 800 Claxton Terrace, so that's basically where we have our visitor parking spots, our handicap parking spots. We would like to be able to still keep them. I think it's important because we do have, as Judy has mentioned, we do have people with severe mobility issues. So for those parking spots, that's what we do. So if we lose that spot, we'll have to be on the other side. It's going to be a longer distance for them to get into the building. So we did measure if we kept those parking spots to the other side, we could add asphalt, and that would still comply with the planning department. That would be enough roadway for birds and people to get to the center. So that can be done. So I'm asking for another easement. So those are my 3 biggest concerns. So it looks like 2 or 3. And as we said, that we can do that. I'm approaching 6 inches onto the developer's property and rental offices. I don't think we're going to come to a resolution tonight on that. So I'm asking if we can do, if the planning committee can defer make a decision until we can come to get an answer on that. Just the last thing, I'm happy that the developers can be building an outdoor amenity space. So some of the feedback that I'm getting from my tenants is a lot of space. They sit out there with fellow tenants and friends at the picnic table, so. So I believe, I'm assuming that the developer is gonna go to the, maybe the councilors ask, what do you propose for this amenity space? I know we have a park right across the street, so I would suggest having something simple, like an outdoor gazebo that is enclosed and that has numerous picnic tables. And I think that would alleviate some of the concerns from the tenants, so they still have an outdoor space to go to.
Thank you. Mr. Young. Are there any additional comments from the public? I'll be asking that 2 times. Are there any additional comments from the public? And for the final time, are there any additional comments from the public? So the public portion of the meeting is now closed. We would ask that if you have any further concerns or questions, you could put it in writing and address it to either the clerk, Chloe Preston, or our planner, Tim Fisher. Does the applicant wish to respond to any of the
Through the chair, my apologies. I'm gonna try to sit like this. I'm gonna handle a handful of the questions and then I'll hand the rest over to Mr. Fisher. In terms of traffic and the noise study, both of those are studies that have been completed and are part of the public record because they were submitted with the application. So I'm sure that if you contacted Mr. Fisher or the treasurer or the clerk, sorry, that they would be happy to send those to you if you wanted to read them. So the rail noise and vibration have been addressed through the noise study. At the rear of the building in the planting strip between our parking area and the adjacent, we can definitely talk about, you know, if it's landscape shrubs or if it's a fence or something, that would be through the site plan control application, but we fully expect there to be some sort of light buffer in order to stop the headlights from shining into the windows of the apartments next door. We did receive the petition from the neighbors next door through Mr. Fisher, so thank you for that. The driveway as it exists is only intended to change insofar as we will be widening it slightly to meet with the zoning bylaw criteria for access for the fire. The picnic tables that I believe we're all referring to are currently just on the west side of the driveway along those trees between the parking area at the top there and the driveway. Those should be able to stay where they are with no change. The widening that's required in order for the fire truck to safely enter for zoning bylaw compliance will not encroach on those trees or where the picnic tables are. That will have to be confirmed exactly where that line is going to go by the surveyors in the site plan control phase, but visually when you're out there and measuring it out, it looks like those picnic tables can remain where they are. As mentioned, we have already had discussions with Mr. Fisher on establishing an easement for the property at 800 Claxton so that they can maintain that visitor parking, the accessible parking, and use of the driveway to access their parking area. That is something that can be done as a mechanism through the existing consent application. So it's definitely our intention. We have only just heard this evening about the rental office, so you can see even with these very loose property lines, that there is, it's pretty tight. So we'd want to confirm, you know, where that property line actually is with the surveyors. And then I'm sure that 6 inches will not be a problem for us to negotiate at the site plan control phase for an easement for that as well. In terms of the amenity space to the east of this property, the applicant's intention is that it is a kind of useful and enjoyable space primarily for the residents of the proposed development, but it obviously connects with larger currently town-owned lands to the east. So the possibility for, you know, a walking trail, benches or something through there is not currently contemplated, a little bit outside of the scope of this application, but definitely something that could be considered in the future.
If I may, sorry, my name is Jacob Bolduc, I'm the planner with Floating Consultants. I haven't said anything, Holly's done a great job. Did have a couple things that I just wanted to touch on as well. Going in reverse order about the rental office, just to respond directly to the request for deferral for Mr. Gill, we would prefer not to defer the file. We prefer to move ahead with the decision tonight. The reason being is that there is still the site plan control process, which will be required. It's a public process, and our client would be happy to continue meeting with Mr. Gill to find some solutions there that include both the easement to the parking, the easement to the parking area for access, the existing visitor parking along 800, and potentially some solutions to some of the accessory buildings there as well. It's sort of the next step in the process. This is just zoning. We're asking for certain relief from certain provisions. I think it would be premature to defer the file over something that will continue to be discussed at the next stage of the planning process at site plan control. There was a comment also about the drive aisle width being too narrow at 6 meters. 6 meters is pretty standard for a fire route. There was a note that it's about 12 feet, it's actually 20 feet. It's pretty standard for a drive aisle. Most parking lots or parking garages that you've been in have a 6 meter drive aisle, sometimes as much as 6.5, 6.7, but it's by no means unorthodox to have a 6 meter drive aisle, and it is suitable for fire trucks. And on that note, similarly, through the site plan control process, the next stage, we have, at this stage, we've already received some preliminary information from the emergency services through Mr. Fisher and staff. We'll continue to work with them on a few different options. So for example, the previous plan that you saw, we had a roundabout at the end to allow trucks, garbage trucks or fire trucks to turn around. We're investigating that further. A hammerhead might be a better option. There's also an option potentially for a hammerhead between the two buildings if that is too long of a distance for the fire truck to travel. I guess what I'm saying is there's quite a bit of space on the site to find a solution, and we've heard nothing from emergency services or our own consultants that would indicate that this is going to be an issue at site plan control. Lastly, just a comment about how there might be better spots in town. It's a comment we hear a lot. The challenge here is that your official plan recognizes that within the residential designation, high density should be located close to the CN rail line. That's your policy. And that's where this site is located. That's reflected in the existing zoning. Most of the site is already zoned for R3, which would allow for apartment buildings like we're proposing. So the relief that we're requesting tonight is not necessarily for the buildings themselves. It's generally other site plan elements, cleaning up the zoning so we're no longer split zone, for example. Reducing the drive aisle, which we talked about, doesn't impact the width of the driveway or fire truck access. The landscape buffer, which again, we're happy to explore. Opportunities for mitigation for headlight glare to existing tenants in the adjacent building. All of that can happen through the public consultation process that occurs through site plan. So we welcome these comments. If anybody has any further written comments, again, please submit them to the clerk. The process continues in site plan, and we'll take those back when we do the detailed design of the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the staff wish to respond?
To you, Madam Chair, I believe the representatives, the applicant covered all concerns. The only thing I will say is that we are going to work with the applicant and their agents to alleviate any concerns that have been brought up. And our main goal is to make a good development that will function appropriately and especially for the residential use that's there, and limit any potential impact on the adjacent landowner. So there's still a little bit of work to be done through the site plan control process, but we're all going to work together to create something that I think that's going to be quite nice in this area.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the committee? I just have a comment. It seems to me that there's a real spirit of cooperation between the developer and the town staff. And I think they're doing everything that they can do to satisfy any concerns that the public have. And we do appreciate public feedback, for sure. It's important for the planning of the town. So I will now call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. So what will happen next is it will go to town council on August the 11th. So again, if you have any concerns, please put them in writing to the clerk or to Tim prior to that date. And thank you, everybody, for coming. Okay, so we're going to move on now to 5.2, PAC report 10-2025. Which is a CIP application for 206 King Street West. And it is from Ryan Moore. We have a potential recommendation that reads that CIP application 2025-04 for 206 King Street West be approved in full by the Planning Advisory Committee under the downtown area to a maximum of $22,000 in non-repayable property improvement grant funding, not exceeding 50% of eligible costs, and up to $1,000 or 10%, whichever is greater in permit grant. Can I have a mover and a second, or Councilor second, James, our Economic Development Officer, Dana Valentine, will speak to the report.
Thank you, Terry, for each of the committee. We have an application before you under the CIP program tonight for the property located at 206 King Street West. Thank you for that. So this is a property that's been undergoing a significant restoration for the past 12 to 18 months now, and the owner is nearing the end of the restoration, is now in a position to start leasing the properties. So we have an interested tenant who is committed to lease 206 King Street West, and they have requested funding support through the CIP program. The applicant, Riley Moore, intends to revitalize the space and establish a full-service cosmetic and wellness clinic, offering non-surgical medical aesthetic services, including injectables, IV nutrient therapy, microneedling, and then several other services. And it's an exciting development. It's certainly bringing, a completely new sector of professional services to the community that, in my conversations with Ms. Moore, she's actually servicing a lot of local clients that are currently traveling to her practice located in Ottawa. So this is essentially a satellite service of a very successful practice that she's operating in the Ottawa area that would be from the Prescott. And she has some pretty standard renovations to complete, including drywall, plumbing, electrical, HVAC. What the owners provided is essentially a shell for the tenant to come in and design to suit basically their needs. He finds that's been the most successful approach. And then of course she'll be moving forward with some exterior signage. Not a lot of other exterior renovations to the property because the owners have done quite a bit. She will be painting, of course, as well, in addition to the signage. And I had suggested that she look at the possibility of bringing that awning back into operation, whether that's possible or not. There are a few of those relic awnings that still exist in the community, so it would be nice to see them brought back into repair. Total estimated project cost is $50,000. Applicant is requesting $22,000 in grant funding with no loan component, and is also requesting the $1,000 permit reimbursement fee. And upon review of the application, there are no eligibility concerns. And of course, the committee has several alternatives before them, from declining or approving a portion of the funding or select categories only. And there are no environmental implications. And I've just attached the application package as well as the property image. Happy to entertain any questions the committee may have.
Thank you, Dina. Are there any comments or questions? Is the applicant present? Okay. I will now call the question then. All in favor? Motion carried. 5.3 PIC report 11-2025 is a CIP downtown application for 187 and -189 King Street East from the F and A property group. We have a potential recommendation that reads that CIP application 2025-05 for 187, 189 King Street West be approved in full by the Planning Advisory Committee under the downtown area to a maximum of $44,000 in non-repayable grant funding, up to $1,000 or 10%, whichever is greater, in permit grants, and $150,000 in loan funding, not exceeding 50% of eligible costs, along with the tax increment grant. Can I have a mover? Councilor Whitney, and a seconder, Ms. Nankar. Dina Valentine will speak to the report.
Thank you, Terry, on to you to the committee. We have another application under the downtown core for a property located at actually Kitty Corner, 206 Main Street. This is another property that has been vacant for many years. They recently managed to fill 2 of the commercial spaces with H&R Block and the Prescott sub, which is located around the corner. But the upper stories of the building have been vacant for many years, as well as the 2 remaining commercial locations. Property was just sold to a new owner who intends to complete a full restoration, bringing 4 apartment units back to the second story and bringing 2 leasable commercial spaces to the downtown. So very exciting, long overdue project, and we're really happy to see an application coming forward. We fairly standard. There was previous work that was funded through this program for replacement of windows, for replacement of some main plumbing lines, for remediation of hazardous materials, everything from asbestos to mold. Significant work was actually done on the property to date, as much as it may not look that way yet, because a lot of that work was hidden, but we were very happy to see basically all that work was done to preserve the building, which was great, because it prevented it from, ongoing deterioration, which has let this new transition move forward. So they will actually restore the property from an aesthetic standpoint, so it will look better, have new tenants, and they requested the $44,000 that's available per storefront under grants, and up to the $150,000 in loan funding that would be available. And of course, they requested the property tax increment, because there will be significant tax increases as a result of their work. And the permit application fee grant has been requested as well. So as I mentioned, it's an exciting project. We have no concerns related to eligibility, and the total project investment is estimated at just shy of $300,000. And no environmental, so I'm happy to answer any questions that committee may have at this time. Picture and application was included with the package.
Thank you, Dina. Any discussion?
Question, Dina, Chair. Is there parking available for that unit anywhere? I don't think so.
That is one of those problematic ones that is lacking parking.
Okay.
Certainly not unique when it comes to other downtown properties. We have several of those, and the town is actually offering permanent spaces in the clock tower parking area located immediately beside that property that is available for downtown tenants to rent on a monthly basis.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so we do have
How
a
many,
few.
how
of those, I
many
think, left,
is prospective parking?
Sorry,
How many parking spots?
I think we have 8 that have been opened up, 8 to 10. Basically, the entire southern strip of that clock tower parking lot is permitted spots now.
Oh,
It's
Okay.
something that we actually started to offer for the 202 to 210 property. That building owner was looking for parking for their tenants, which was problematic as well. So they've been able to take advantage of some of that.
and one more question, sorry, Madam Chair, how many apartments up there? 4?
Or is planned, yes.
Is that rates? You know, if they're 2 or 1?
He hasn't decided yet at this point. We don't have an actual plan or.
Yeah, we do.
Okay,
Yeah, they're all one bedroom,
all one bedroom,
Oh,
okay.
all 1 bedrooms, okay.
and they were pre-existing, just haven't been used very well.
Yeah,
Question, sure. For you, we own that whole parking lot,
We do.
so potentially could the whole parking lot, other than shoppers, like maybe some for shoppers, could they be permitted spots?
Potentially, I defer to Matthew for that.
I would certainly be visiting the council, and it's covered by in terms of how many spots are available.
So,
So you have to amend the bylaw to allow for more spots, basically.
so the number that we have now, is that the maximum number, 8?
You can, is not
So we could go to 10 without amending the bylaw?
correct.
And to amend the bylaw, how many more can we have?
I think that's part of the discussion. In terms of, we have to take a look in terms of what the usage is now for different businesses downtown, things like that. But it's certainly that's up to the council's decision on terms of how many.
Thank you very much.
And I'm sorry, just for clarification, those spots are for residential tenants only. They're not available for commercial.
Any questions? Discussion? I think that's one thing, downtowns are changing, they're not just stores anymore, there's a real residential component, so I think even like on the VIA, it's something that we have to think about for sure.
Absolutely, it is, if I can just expand on that, it's certainly problematic for commercial tenants too, because the downtown King Street specifically is a 2-hour parking limit. So we try to have merchants refrain from parking on King Street and use all the side streets, because they basically have a limited time period. So not King, Edward Center, Water Street, all George, all unlimited parking. So that's where we do try, but we are certainly at a point where we have a very thriving downtown now that is very busy, and parking continues to be at a great, and then to your point, Terry, on the more residential we have, the greater pressure that creates, while we're also trying to maintain that balance between residential and commercial, because we don't want it to get to a point where businesses feel that they can't operate successfully and have places for their customers to park too. Well, certainly, something to look at in the future.
Okay, so I'm going to now call the question, all in favor? Motion carried. Item 5.4, CIP financial record. Community improvement plan financial record. This is for information purposes only. And Matthew Crenshaw will speak to the report.
So since 2018, we've allocated $121,000 towards the CIP program. When you go down and take a look at the total in terms of what we've approved with tonight's, we're over 1.1 million. 222,000 has been invested back in the program thanks to people not using their entire grant amount or that changing. So that's how we've been able to invest. And when we take a look at our current grouping of what's extended and 14 in progress, we feel that there's about 80,000 that will be used just based on their current project. So at this point, we're still able to approve ones that we have this evening, which is a total of 69,000. and be within the envelope. But as we go with the next several months, any further ones, we'll have to take a look at and decide whether they're deferred to next year or if we can ask council for an additional allocation for the CIP program. But of the total of 81 projects that have been approved since 2018, 67 have been completed, closed, or I think there was only one in which it was canceled, and 14 are in progress, but nothing past everything from 2022 and earlier has been completed and closed, and we only have 3 remaining from 2023, a fair number from 24, and then obviously the ones that have been more recently approved. So just providing an indication of where we are in the process at this point, but certainly it's been and it's spurred over almost $30 million. So I think that's certainly some very good news, and what we are aiming for when we develop this program. Number of years.
Thank you, Matthew. Is there any comments? Okay. Is there any new business? No? And there's no media present. Item 8 is adjournment. I have a recommendation that the planning advisory committee meeting be adjourned. The time is 6:49. Or did no phone. Do I have a mover? Yes, Stephanie, Jane, all in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.